Welcome to the strange and mysterious world with William and Lee.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of Strange and Mysterious World. We have a very interesting guest coming on in the next few minutes, David Verdesi. He is an author and also an anthropologist. This David has been traveling around the world in search of superhumans, superhumans. So we're going to get into that topic. And also something to do with the Kundalini experience. I'm very keen to hear about that when that comes up. But before we get into that, William, we were chatting a little bit the other day about that precognition issue, or the precognition thing that was happening out in Wales in 1944. About that mining disaster, and the kids that were having those dreams prior to the actual disaster happening. They were having especially that one girl that had the dream. And she told her parents that the school had disappeared and it was covered now in a black, black mass. And it actually happened. 144 people died. So that's actually quite a. And then obviously the British government decides they're going to go open up a precognition,
precognition
bureau. Precognition bureau, because they thought, okay, cool, now they could get these people on, and they'd be able to prevent disasters from happening. People could send their precognitions through. The problem with that is there were so many loonies phoning in that half the stuff, or most of the stuff, they couldn't, it did nothing. So that the precognition bureau opened up for 18 months and then they closed down again. So.
Yeah, but it's so stupid because that actually could have worked if they got maybe if they got 20 really good remote viewers and they put them together in a room and they would remote view what was going to happen every month, and they took the data from 20 very good remote viewers, but instead they just opened it up to people whoever had a precognition experience must send through their stuff, and they would go through this data and try and predict what was going to happen, if there was any disasters, because that Welsh disaster, there was a coal mine. It was a coal mine. Yeah, there was a coal mine. It was near the school, and I remember from the story that they had a look. There was something. I don't know if it was the health and safety or something. Someone came and had a look and said, you have to change something, otherwise where all the deposit of all the coal, whatever, the thing's going to break and there's going to be a landslide. And they just put it off. They just said, no, we'll deal with it later. Or I don't know if there was I can't remember what the problem was, but they just avoided it. And then eventually it happened, and that landslide came down and covered the whole school in Wales, and it killed 119 kids and 36 teachers. But the thing was that the kids were drawing images of this before. This one kid drew it's so sad talking about it, but he drew him and his friend holding hands, and he said and he drew all this black stuff over them, and he wrote "the end." It's the end, and then when they found his body, he was holding his friend's hand, and he was lying there dead with his friend. And there was a few other kids that drew the school with a big black pile over it. There was also other parents that also had dreams of this happening. And even the one parent didn't even take the child to school that day because they had this dream that the school was going to get covered in a black substance and everyone was going to die. So they didn't take and that child survived. And then the bureau opened up. And then everybody sent through their precognition experiences because they thought they could try and prevent something like this in the future. But obviously it got drowned out by all the lunatics, like you said. But it could have worked, obviously the Minority Report, that Steven Spielberg movie, they had those 3 or 4 oracles sitting there in that vat. You remember that? Those 4 psychics in a vat with the tubes coming out of them, and they were just predicting. That's a bit extreme. But they just got 20. renowned remote viewers and just made them remote view something they could probably predict, they could probably stop a lot of disasters from happening, or not stop them, or like prevent people from being around them.
Yeah, it's 100%. Maybe that's actually what happened, because the Precognition Bureau in 1966, obviously that shut down quite quickly. But you're right. I think the precognition and remote viewing is on the same par, because the remote viewers are able to see the past, future, and the present. So it would make more sense for people that are wanting to do some sort of precognition to bring remote viewers in and give them targets of future you know what I mean, of something that's going to happen in the future. So that would make more sense to actually bring remote viewers in, like Dick Algar and the guys.
But did Alka
100%.
on future forecasting, they actually do that? They always predict like events that are going to happen in the future, and it's amazing how like when they hit things. Because I follow them on Instagram, and they always say like a hit, and then they show like because obviously you can watch their channel and whatever, and then they say this is what's going to happen in the month, and then they'll show what actually happened, and they're quite accurate a lot of the time.
Yeah, because they did the Donald Trump thing, the assassination. They had that quite accurate about a guy on a roof with a sniper rifle. So that was pretty accurate. So yeah, these guys they're pretty sharp. So, but I think it's it's kind of, as we've been discussing over the past year, a little bit that we've been doing this podcast, that there is definitely something to the human being, and able to lock into that field, that energy. So we call it remote viewing, but that can be precognition. Some people are able to touch an object, and they'll be able to see a past of it. So I think there is definitely a connection with us onto this field. I'll call it the akashic field, or the A field, or whatever you want to call it, but we're able to connect. And some people like with these dreams, I think there was a dream by somebody that had the assassination of JFK. I think there was also somebody that dreamed about that was going to happen. So I think there's definitely some sort of connection with us onto these sort of mystic fields. And this is also why I'm very keen to hear what David's got to say, because he's going to be talking about people that have got these superhuman abilities. They might be a little bit useless, to some extent, but if we're able to connect somehow to it, we maybe be able to better everything that happens in our world around us. And if we're able to understand that we are powerful beings, and we're able to do certain things, and but then you've got to be careful as well, because then you've got people that take that power to another level, and they just want to dominate. They want to dominate people. They want to dominate the human race, because with that type of power, it can corrupt. Definitely, it can corrupt. So you've got to be careful with that type of stuff.
Excuse me. But that's why with all the secret societies around the world, like with the, they would, when you get initiated, you had to show like great dedication, and you would almost have to be chosen, because if they showed you how to open up these abilities within you, you need to be pure, pure heart, pure minded, and you wouldn't use it for to harm others and yourself, and use it for bad intentions. So because they showed you these certain like practices and things to do to awaken these special abilities within you, but it's not for everybody, because it could be dangerous, and also could be used for bad intention. But that's also what we so cool when we speak to David, because he's gone around the world for 30 years looking for these amazing people that have these special abilities. And there's been a documentary series. It was on, I don't know if it's still on Guy, but it was a guy called Superhuman. It was called the Superhuman Experience, because there's actually two Superhuman websites, and was it Superpower? There's one called Superpower, and there's a Superhuman. Oh yes, no, and then also Corey. I forgot what her surname is, but Corey, that lady, that psychic lady, she also made a documentary series called Superhuman, which was very cool as well. I mean, we should actually get her on sometime. But it was just more about like it had we interviewed him on the show as well. Sean McNamara about telekinesis, and he had she had Nicola Farmer from the ICU Academy that teaching kids how to see through blindfolds. She had them on the show. But David's show, he went around the world searching for these people with these unbelievable abilities, you know, t- uh, tel like levitation. Like, I mean, this one guy, he could build up so much energy in his body that you couldn't even touch him unless if you touched him with a leaf, you would still get a huge shock, which is amazing. You see that in the documentary series.
Yeah, that's with David now. That's he'll probably chat about that because that was one
Yes.
of his experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, so and then also so he also took the techniques that these people he learned the techniques of how they've gained these superpowers, and he actually teaches them on his website. You can go to his website, and I mean the superhuman experience. It was amazing because you got all the documentary series, and you got four techniques of how to um, you know
To,
uh,
mm.
to uh, better your energy, your power, your mind-heart coherence. Stuff that's maybe won't make you levitate, but it will help you, spiritually advance, like help you in your day to day with more energy, like help you be more stronger and centered in your being, so you can face more adversity in in at work or like in your life with stress and stuff like that. As well as he also said it would probably eventually awaken your Kundalini if you did these practices of that. But I've been doing them for quite a while. I haven't had a Kundalini experience, but I've had some other experiences where I'd love to speak to him about on the show when we have him on. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I love his work. I love the. So anyway, that documentary says superhuman. I think it's .or something, but I don't know if that's still running, but he on his website, all those documentary series, there's episodes on his website for free. I mean, I was watching them again yesterday, and also you can obviously buy his. Oh, you can go to his website and get the techniques of all the stuff that he's learned and is now teaching. So yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see what he has to say.
Well, there's a fantastic saying in the Marvel series, Spider-Man, when his grandfather speaks to Peter Parker and he says to him, because he understands now that I think when he's dying, he says to him, with great power comes great responsibility. So that's the key. I mean, you've got to be responsible. If you're gonna kind of pursue this path and you manage to unlock whatever abilities, that you have to be responsible. You cannot be irresponsible with these type of things.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely,
so I think that's actually pretty cool. So
but that's great because I mean obviously the secret societies that that could unlock these things. And I mean we've talked about like Freemasonry before and the Rosicrucians and the Theosophic Society and that I mean those are like some, but but just say like because I mean obviously Jesus, like a lot of people say that Jesus was running initiation school with inside of Judaism, and like that's what was like baptism, and he was doing like a lot of practices that obviously that are not in the Bible or whatever that he would teach to his disciples and that. But I mean imagine of that power, like that what Jesus had got out to someone that did not have good intentions in that. I mean that would be a fucking disaster, you know. He would be going around causing
But
havoc or
I
using for
always
such power.
wonder.
There's probably maybe people in power that are like really at the top of the elites that we don't know about that have this like kind of. I mean, I bet you Elon Musk probably has some kind of ability, like some kind of maybe he goes out of body. He probably lies in his office, goes out of body, and goes and like checks what other CEOs are doing. You never know what these CEOs are like. Big power people are up to. You know, they probably got some really like some potent things that they can do, but they're not say. They're not revealing it to the rest of the world. And also, there is actually, I wish we must actually get that book. There is a book about that CEOs, um, but they don't reveal who they are. But there are some people that have like not only really extraordinary experiences with extraterrestrials and stuff, but also have powers, and that's probably the reason why they're so successful.
Yeah, no, 100%. But you never know with, in our world today, and we know about shadow governments and all sorts of stuff that actually operate behind the scenes, and what we see is just the puppets, the puppet governments. You don't know with these guys. I mean, it's possible that that these guys that are operating behind the scenes have these powers and have been abusing them. And this is the reason why we're in such cuck as we are. I mean, the turmoil on the planet, and maybe we're awakening up to it. And you know what I mean?
But it was also
we're kind of almost understanding what's going on. So I don't know.
what also interests me though is that, like, I mean, because I mean we've spoken about these things when I've meditated for long periods of time, like some experiences that I've had that are like really profound, and we've talked about it on the show before, and and they say it's like, I mean, obviously all the sages and the gurus and the holy people, that monks and stuff, they say that that's just the circus. Like, once you start having these abilities, like, you got to ignore it because it's not the point. You got to reach the goal, or you got to keep going, and that's just a circus, and don't get distracted by that, because you're gonna get, it's like bringing you back to your ego, and like you're gonna get obsessed by it, and it's not good. But so the people that do have these special abilities, they have reached a certain, like, spiritual uh like height, or whatever you want to call it, like in their process. But what I've realized, like, the more I've been going, the less materialistic I've been getting. Like, I mean, I've like downsized everything. I mean, obviously also, like, there's also some survival needs. But the thing is, I've been like needing less and less, and wanting less and less, and like, I could, sometimes I'd feel like, if I just owned nothing, I'd be probably so happy, and like, so. I mean, that's just my spiritual journey. So it's funny that people, like we'd say now, that maybe the elites have these powers and that, but if they're getting to that stage where they can, you would think that they would also be kind of getting enlightened in a way, that they would want to use it for good. They would want less materialistic things. Like, I don't know, I don't know exactly how it
No,
works, but that's.
no, there's something you must actually read. I'll get it. I think it's called I'll get the name. But there's something that you must read. It's very, dude, this opened my eyes like straight away. It was called something by the Hidden Hand. It was written by a group called the Hidden Hand, or this guy that belonged to something called the Hidden Hand. And he kind of writes this thing, and he says, I can't remember what was posted. I'll find it for you. I'll we'll put a link onto it. But he actually talks about people that have come from different dimensions. They've dropped down into our dimension. And the reason that they are actually here is to cause havoc. They are here specifically to cause chaos, to put evil into the world, and to give us as much pain and stress as possible. That is their job. Their job they've come down from the fifth, the sixth, and seventh dimensions. They come onto our dimension, and their job is to do it. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is so that we can grow. And we can go beyond where we are. So that was a very, very interesting read. It was so interesting, dude. I'll get it. I know that's also a message from the Hidden Hand or something like that. Yeah,
it's funny because that's exactly what there's like the two philosophies is like that and because I mean, if God made everything, He made the good and He made the evil. So like,
obviously you can't grow without it. You can't.
Yeah, so the evil has to like push us to grow. But then there's the other one that, like this is the prison planet, and we actually just have to be put into absolute fear all the time so that they can feed off of our energy. The reptilians, the prison guards.
Well, I don't know if I believe too much in that thing. And the reason being is because through situations in life, and it kind of takes you through, you go through dark periods of your life, and I think everybody has at some stage or whatever. But if you've kind of understood it and you grow from it, you become wise, and you become more understanding of what's going on in the world. Do you know what I mean? So without those things having processed your through your life, you would never be or land up where you are. And some people run with it. Some people go and they become gurus, they become wise men, they become teachers to teach others. You know what I mean? People that haven't gone through it yet. But so I don't, the prison planet thing, I've always kind of disagreed with that. I don't think that's the case. I think, yes, there are people here, and I think or beings or entities or whatever you want to call it, that put us through absolute chaos. But there is a specific reason for that, and the reason is to get us to grow. Because you must remember one thing as well, and it actually talks about this in the Bible. When Adam and Eve were first created, they didn't know anything about good and bad. They were probably the stupidest people on earth, because they had no clue about anything, dude. They were running around almost like with like headless chickens. They knew nothing. They had absolutely no wisdom. They had nothing, and they stayed like that in that sort of consciousness, or they stayed in that form for hundreds of years, and they were not progressing. Nothing was happening. You know what I mean? Nothing was happening to them. They just stayed 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 1,000 years. Nothing was happening. So what had to happen? Something had to happen where it would now give you a choice. So I think there's a misunderstanding when Eve ate from the apple, because the snake kind of rose and said, this is what you need to do. It was to gain wisdom, because with wisdom and comes knowledge and understanding. So if she hadn't have eaten that, none of us would be in this world. There'd be two people running around still naked and like babies. They had minds of babies. They wouldn't understand it. So that had to happen. The process of the apple or whatever it is, and it's probably just a
magic mushrooms.
It's probably weren't only 2 people. I mean, there were probably spans of people, but the idea of that, the growth had to happen for us to kind of move on to, and to then make a choice to say, okay, which route do we go? Do we go that way or do we go this way? And there would always be a obstacle put in your ways when you're doing the way that, especially when you're trying to do the right way. There's more obstacles that are in your way to try and prevent you from going that way, to try and direct you the other, to try and direct you to the path more traveled than the path less traveled. So I think it's something that had to happen. And we kind of, if we start understanding those things and we start realizing that that this is the case, we can all look at the world and look at everybody at a different light. We can say, okay, this is where we are, this is what we should be doing, and this is how we should be acting. But that won't happen until people get out of freaking living on these things, okay, and not understanding anything of what's going on in the world.
Yeah, or maybe we just been like, you get to heaven and it's so peaceful, and you're just sitting there on the cloud. You got like 1,000.
No, that's not true either.
Stroking your feet.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine sitting up there for the next 10,000 years?
But that's the thing. It gets boring, and you're like, oh, Jesus, this is so boring. I'm so bored of these 1,000 women just stroking and feeding me grapes on this cloud. It's so easy. I'm so bored. I want to go back on the roller coaster, and then they plug you back into earth, and you're like, oh my God, this thing is so insane. Oh my God, so much pain and suffering. Oh fuck, it's so intense. And then you get out and you die, and you're like, whoo. Geez, that was a rough one. Fuck it. And then you're just sitting there sure. And God, I'm just going to have another break, another 10,000 years up here. Fuck. And then you just and then after a while, you're like, oh my God, this is so boring. Fuck. I can't stand how fucking good it is up here. It's just so fucking good and boring. And you're like, fuck, I'm going back to Earth. Come on, guys, let's go. I'm going back there. Let's do this. Yeah, yes, David. Yeah, get him in.
Yeah, cool.
So where are you guys based?
I'm in South Africa,
but I'm in Cape Town and Lee's in Durban, KZN.
Beautiful. Yeah, I was there when I was very young. I spent several months in the Kruger, the national park.
Oh wow! What are you doing there?
I wanted to
picking animals up, man.
I wanted to be a ranger. I wanted to be, a guard of the park.
Ah, okay. And then how did that go? Did it just?
Well, it was beautiful. I just, it's like you always come at this process in life, and you have to choose, left or right. And there was definitely a big choice in my life, and I somehow chose the other path, and so that led me up the mountain and so on, the whole kind of spiritual dimension of it. But you remain as one of the other sort of version of me would have been probably there in South Africa or somewhere in one of the great parks.
Okay, wow.
Before we carry on, I want to ask you: are you a Lazio supporter or Roma?
I never played soccer, and I don't know anything about it.
But David, Can you just tilt your screen down a little bit because it's just it's quite a bit of headroom on the top of your. Are you able to do that?
I can. Something like
Yeah,
this.
that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
I can put this one higher if you need it. Just like this.
No, I think that's fine. That's fine.
It's not really set up as a podcast studio.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But David, are
just the villa we rented.
No, but it looks good, man. I love that picture behind you. It's great.
Very Balinese, right?
Yeah. So, but are you from Russia or from Italy?
Italy.
I'm from Rome, from that region. Yeah, my wife is Russian, and I lived in Moscow many years. We still sort of live between Europe and Russia most of the time.
Okay. But okay, so David, I'm a huge fan of yours. I mean, I watched the documentary series Superhuman Experience, and it was amazing. And I did the techniques that you had. I signed up for the, I don't know when it first started. You and I think the other guy's name was Lee, hey? And and you had all of the documentary series episodes, which were absolutely amazing. I loved it so much. And then you had like 3 practices: the energy, the power, and the heart-mind coherence thing. And I did all of that. It was amazing. Maybe I'll get into my experience later on in the podcast because I don't want to, waste time talking about myself. But and then obviously your website, is fantastic. It's got a lot of practices there. So if you could just tell us, tell us about your journey. How did you get into that? Tell us about yourself, who you are, and that journey of traveling around finding the superhumans.
All right. It's a story I've told so many times, I guess, that every time I can try to find a slightly different angle or colors to it. But I was born in Italy, in Rome, and I was raised by my grandmother, who was a military woman who fought in the Great War, and so I was raised a little bit as a military, pretty much from a very, very young age, and I was sent to a priest school because they give a very strict education. And I started to have very early experiences, visions, and memories of, I don't know, somebody probably nowadays would call them past lives. I don't know really, but they were extremely vivid visions, like open eyes vision, not like closing eyes and dreaming. It's like open eyes vision of really being in a completely different sort of reality, and things that I remember. I was maybe, I don't know, 4 years old. I mean, like early memory stage, and I remember more because my grandmother told me that she would find me sitting, meditating, cross-legged, and when she would ask me, "What are you doing?" I say, "Oh, I'm stabilizing the light in front of my eyes." I'm 3 years old or whatever, right? So this memory, this knowing has been with me since pretty much I can remember, and it's always been a part of my life. And then the other side of it, which is interesting because it's been a dualism that has been with me ever since. I also had a very strong connection with let's say, the more theistic experience, right? And so before entering into class, every day we would go to church, right? And although interesting, my grandmother was an atheist, so she didn't send me to the priest school for any religious kind of liking, but just because of the very good education they were giving, and whatever. Before going to class, we would go to church, right, in the morning, and I had these mystical experiences, especially with reading of some of the psalms and all the prayers and so forth and so on, and I would enter sort of this trance-like vision. They were like seizures, it's like the eyes back, and several times they had to come and take me away, and really getting worried. And I had this very profound sort of mystical experiences. So on one side, the visions of clear memories, the other side, this profound mystical experience has been sort of the thread of my life, and especially of my youth. And other than that, I was sort of a normal child who didn't like soccer growing up in Italy. And I was by myself. I wanted to start at martial arts. I started actually judo when I was 5, I guess, I don't remember. And then I met a Chinese family. The kids were in the same school where I was, different class, and I became good friends. And their mother turned out to be a great Qigong practitioner and a martial artist, right? And so I got close to them, and I started the early martial art trainings, aside judo, in the Chinese martial arts, and so no soccer, but everything else, right? And yeah, so that's how it all started, really. Other than that, school was pain, excruciating pain, and I don't know how I survived the years of school. As soon as I could, I ran away. And by the time I was 14, I was pretty much on my own, and I started to travel to Asia. That's another very long story how that happened, and never stopped. Then from Asia, different countries in Asia, then eventually Africa, and then back to Asia, then Mediterranean, Central America, South America, and blah, 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 blah. So
David, sorry, I just want to ask you a question there quickly. When you were at church and you were having these experiences with the visions and your eyes were rolling back, did the priest ever approach your grandmother and say, listen, we think there's possibly demonic, or there must be some sort of exorcism happening, because they're thinking that perhaps now you're possessed because you're having these sort of experiences?
No, nothing that creepy. They were good priests. They were a bit concerned, and I said, well, the child is sensitive and so on. And but opposite, actually. I mean, they really wanted me to go to seminary. They really pushed with my grandmother to put me in seminary. My grandmother, as a native, she said, never.
Okay. And then the other question, David, I had is that from the age of 14, you started traveling around the world. Now, how did you do that? Because I mean, at the age of 14, I think I was just starting high school. So how did you not finish schooling? Did you just start going around the world and start exploring? How did that actually happen?
That was very much thanks to my grandmother's military education. And by the time I was 14, shortly after my birthday, she called me up very serious and she said, David, you are a man now. It's time you go your own way, live your own life. And that's it, pretty much. I was out of the house. She supported me, thanks God, passports and tickets, and she gave me the first sort of seed money to start to travel. And by the time I was 16, I was teaching my first seminars. Can you believe it? Right. I started to earn a living, and that is it. And then I was, fully on my own. I did odd jobs in between, like picking coconut trees instead of monkeys, right? For a bowl of rice and some curry and a place to sleep. And I spent a lot of time in temples and monasteries. I mean, when you are that age and you have that enthusiasm, and you even love the hardship, the ascesis, right? It's thrilling and it's motivating. You need to feel the hard floor under your bones, right? And it's good, a bit of hunger in your belly, and not too much food, and off you go, right? Lots of walking and lots and lots and lots of walking because it's cheaper. Some public transport and a lot of hitchhiking. At the time was still very popular. And
okay, so now let me ask. So, all right. So, 14, you're on a plane. Why? Okay, so you've obviously learned kung fu, which is the qigong kind of style. So, when you decided to leave at 14, what made you decide? Okay, I want to go there. I want to start learning that and teaching that. Was it just something because you've been doing it for quite some time? It's something you wanted to kind of expand on.
Well, I met a teacher. We had a small but sort of growing Chinese community in Rome, where I was, and I met a teacher there, and who was working in a Chinese restaurant. I mean, of all things, right? And he was Taiwanese, and he was going back to Taiwan, and he made a kind of a loose invitation, maybe out of politeness than anything else. I mean, I don't know, but I kind of followed the lead, and that sort of the beginning of the journey. And then, from there, I told you this meeting with this other Taoist teacher in Thailand. These books were sort of at the airports. I arrived at the airports without really knowing what to do or where to go. I wanted to go and see temples and find, monks and so on and so on. And randomly at the airport, I just see this book, The Tao of Sex, or something like this, logically, sex. Right. At that age, it definitely perked my interest. and the guy was living like an hour away, right? So that's it. There was a lot of serendipities, right, in this journey. I mean, especially in the initial stage, I was led by very strong visions. I would say that there were probably two main lines. One was remembering everything that I had been doing, and I knew exactly what I had to do, and I had very detailed visions of the teachers that I had to find, where they were, how to find them. It was really quite unique, and I mean, quite a bit of a fairy tale. I mean, I remember telling the stories. People would not believe me, say, "Oh, you fantasies or blah 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 blah," right? But it was real. It was real. It was definitely real, and so there was this very precise journey of remembering that sort of led me and was leading me to a very precise direction. And the other, of course, was like improvisation. Everything that happens while you travel, right? And your curiosity brings you in a place, and then a coincidence, and somehow you kept meeting people that then bring you to other people's situations, and such is for everyone. I mean, it's the movie of life. But especially when you are so young and so completely free and on your own, without any reference other than your own sort of strong compass, because I was never interested in partying or having fun or anything. My life was like, it was a mission, right? That is it. That's what I live for.
Okay, so then from there you started doing your travel. So for the last 30 years, you've been in search for, obviously your mission is to find superhumans.
No, absolutely not. There was a commercial operation. So this whole idea of the superhuman was just a commercial operation. It's always been my journey has been very different, and definitely was not about that.
Yeah.
It was more like something that happened. It's like along the way, I did meet, logically, some people, a number of people, to tell you the truth, with extraordinary abilities, right? Some of them I will never know was it real or not, because I was too young and enthusiastic to even question what I was seeing, right? And so maybe it was real, maybe not, but it doesn't really matter ultimately. But definitely, I have had the chance to witness many real miracles, and many of these people that were capable of apparently the superhuman or the impossible, right? So maybe I had a need for it. Somebody called it, maybe you had a predestination to see some things or meet people with disabilities. Partly, of course, I was also researching because phenomenology was a branch of empiricism that attracted me, because it was like, well, if someone is claiming that he or she have been dedicating to do these practices and have achieved this and this and that, well, there is a part of it that you will never be able to really test, and that's the subjective experience, right? How do you, somebody says I'm enlightened, how do you, right, confirm it, right? Yeah. Although nowadays you can, that's all in a different conversation, but at the time was a bit sort of earlier, right? But a lot of other people that claim that these esoteric practices would grant special abilities, I was like, well, if you claim yourself to be a master and you claim that this practice, if I need to spend 10 years of my life doing it, will lead me to some concrete evidence, well, I want to see it first, right? And so that was a bit my approach. And so again, I had the chance to meet people that really had some extraordinary abilities. Many times I wasn't even looking for it, it just sort of happened. I mean, one of the very important figures in my life was, well, I always had a very strong connection with Christianity, and I had some mentors in the hesychastic tradition, that is the mystical tradition of Christianity connected to the Pravoslava, so the Orthodoxia, Mount Athos, the desert fathers that live in isolation and asceticism in the deserts of Ethiopia, or some places, and I always remember, well, two probably events. One was my own baptism, that I wanted to do again with a better understanding and under the direction of a true holy man, true man of God. And this was done up in very cold mountains, and they fill up these huge tanks of cold river water with ice, right, to it. Nowadays, cold plunging is very popular, right? At the time, it wasn't, and so you have to prepare for many days with fasting and set of prayers and so forth and so on, right? And then at the day of the baptism, well, you undress and you put this cloth, very heavy white cloth, and then you have to dip in this freezing cold, mountain water. There is no heating system or anything, and it's really cold, right? And then you are standing there, sort of, shivering, and then the baptism happens, and you recite the prayer, and then the moment where there is the descent of the Holy Spirit, which is fire, this preternatural heat that sort of possessed me, and really that sense of being cleansed by fire within, and right, starting to steam, and this heat and this sort of fire in your eyes, and a clarity that is so difficult to describe. Clarity in terms of knowing and so that one was for sure interesting, and so that definitely brought me closer to the power of prayer, and then seeing the same mystic while reciting, and the church was the forest, was the valley of nature, and so he came out of his pretty much shack or cave, right? And very rarely, on some special occasion, and he would recite the prayers and the mass for the people, and people just flocked there, and many other sort of cave dwellers, would come down, and while reciting some of the prayers, he would literally just start to fly. I mean, maybe 2 meters, something like this, of the ground. And what is interesting is that I had experienced myself so-called levitation, where I did it, guided by doing some practice and with some masters next to me, and they trigger some energy experiences, and you find yourself a little bit floating, right? I have seen some shamans do these levitations, but it was just sort of, well, you know, you are floating, right? Or you see someone floating. There was nothing to it. What I experienced when this holy man started to literally fly up was something very different, is that he was rising, and your soul was rising with it, like you were transported in, well, literally in heaven. I mean, I don't know how to say it. It's very difficult to describe, right? But so there was something more than just the event itself. The event itself is that you see a person, you see an object, you know, floating in midair. Okay, cool, but nothing changes here.
Yeah.
And instead, when an holy man did something like that, it's like the whole flock, you know, you literally were raised. And so, and logically, you know, the tears of joy and the bliss, and, you know, all the things that you may attribute to it. And I remember asking him, Father, what happened? And he said, when you pray and your heart is filled with joy, the angels of the Lord come and lift you up, and you are sustained in glory. And I say, yeah, now that's real superhuman. But it's not done by trickery or manipulating your energies or rising your kundalini, or I don't know, whatever is it, using your chi to, it's something else. There is a true spiritual dimension to it, a true mystery to it, which is very humbling, right? And so to say that, although I did witness many things, and some things, again, I never really understand what I witnessed, what it really was. Many of the things that I witnessed, they were like, okay, interesting, but I never really paid attention to it much, because it's like, well, what's the point of like training for 20 years to do telekinesis, right? And move an object across the table 20 centimeters. But in order to do that, I need to spend 3 hours a day for 10 years, you know, concentrating my mind or circulating my energy. I never got the point of it, right?
Yeah.
Why? Right. And then there was some experience, a few experiences of a true, genuine miraculous that defies, let's say, the path of will, if you want to say so, right? Or like, okay, well, I decided I'm gonna set that thing on fire, or move that one, or do this, or meditate and hold my breath for hours. And there is another dimension, you know, to all of that. And so, although I did meet, out of curiosity and out of, let's say, intellectual rigor, people that could perform very interesting feats, right? I was always probably more attracted to the other side, to the thing that happened by grace rather than by power. Okay, and so that happened by love. But to come back to your question, it was definitely never the center of my journey. And so it's it's a commercial exercise, this whole idea of superhuman. I mean, you know, I personally always was against the title. I begged the producers all the time, please change it. That's not what my life was about, you know. And logically, I also understand that they had to make a buck out of it, and so they wanted to focus on some interesting moments that people could connect to, and something like this. And it was very difficult because they asked me, well, why don't you find for us some of these superhumans? And he was like, well, it's not that these people are sort of waiting to perform for you. And so that was all another thing that was very difficult to go around and ask, would you like to be on camera and do,
Yeah.
And I mean, I tell you, I must have asked, I kid you not, maybe 60 people. Right. And out of 60, well, maybe 2 or 3 really accepted, and those are not necessarily the people that are the most impressive, if you understand what I mean. But yeah, such was the thing. Whatever the case, it's why we're here now. So I'm grateful that it happened. I always need to point out that that's not what the journey was about, and it's not what is the focus of my belief, my interest.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, David, because yesterday we were doing a sound test, me and Lee, and we were discussing it, and I was saying like, yo, that guy with the leaf, where like he brought up so much power in his body, you couldn't touch him, but touch him with a leaf. I mean, and I was saying to Lee, that's impressive, but like, what's the fucking point of it? And then like, and then I was like, yeah, but then David got touched with the leaf, and he was like getting shocked, and his energy channel opened. But then what happened to David? I was saying to Lee, I was like, what happened to David after that? Like, there's no explanation like how his life changed, or how he became a better person, or that obstacle in his life disappeared because he suddenly had this experience. There's no explanation of like how it helped the person, or even that shaman that could do the energy, like how beneficial it was in his life, like how having that ability, like how it made him like a better person, like how like maybe he had a terrible relationship with his wife, and then he did that, and then all of a sudden he's got the best relationship with his wife, and the job that he always wanted, he got the job. I mean, there's no explanation of what. And then we were like joking. I was like, yo, but it's cool because like in South Africa there's load shedding. Like they cut the power off here for like a few hours every time. If you had that ability, you could stick your finger in the wall and like you could light the house up. Or if you're camping, you could like heat your food quickly. Like if you're getting mugged, you're in the streets, you're getting mugged. You could just like, you don't need a taser. You could just shock the guy to death there. So we were joking about that, but so I'm glad you brought that up because, it was always fascinating because, I mean, I've always wanted to have those super abilities, like watching, I'm like, geez, it'll be so cool to levitate, but you're right, like, what is the point? If you can levitate, what is it going to help you?
Yeah, and it's a very good question because it's the question that I started to ask myself, early on. I mean, as a man, especially a young man, of course, there is a fascination with power for the sake of it. Okay, and they all, American superheroes, blah blah blah. I mean, who is the superhero? Well, is the projective fantasy of a disempowered person, individual, generally a disempowered or traumatized child. And so the superhero is our projective fantasy of the disempowerment that we experience. And so the fantasy of having the power, being powerful, it's always a tale that there deep within, there is a very disempowered person somewhere. And so you bring the example, well, somebody mugged me on the street, so you are subject to violence, you are disempowered, you live in fear, and so you have a fantasy need, now I develop the power to, resist, be immune, or strike them at a distance, right? And so the projective nature of the power fantasy, it is such. It is never meant to better you, okay? When you look at the mythology of the hero, okay, and it's a beautiful, very powerful mythology, especially as man, it's very relevant at a certain stage of our life, right? And the hero is never happier, or definitely not holier, because of the power that he has been bestowed. quite the opposite. Is, he has to face incredible challenges, incredible difficulties, and he cannot have a peaceful, happy life. He's always called to war, he's always called to fight, he's called to suffer, he's called to sacrifice. And so that whole mythology of I want the power and I choose that power very often come from not understanding what you are embarking yourself on. Okay? Because even if you would have the power, you would not be happier, you would not be more at peace, you definitely would not be closer to God, you definitely would not be closer to love, you probably would not really be able to love a woman or to have a normal family, right? And ultimately, that's what I've seen, that the great majority of people that have developed disabilities, they are not better people because of it. It is like it takes an obsessive personality setting to wanting to develop disabilities. And so that already tells you that there is a very profound suffering, a very profound pain, a very profound wound and imbalance. Because it is the same as wanting to become an Olympic athlete, a prima ballerina, or a concerto master. You have to wake up in the morning thinking about training, train all day, 8 hours a day. When you eat, you think about training and you watch videos about training. And you go to sleep very early, you have no social life, and you start the next day because you won the golden medal, because you won the role of prima ballerina. And it's an obsession. It's not healthy by any stretch, right? But it takes that personality. It's not just a mindset, because you can't have a mindset. So you either have a very peculiar, fairly broken, wounded personality, and then you're gonna have that obsessive, compulsive tendencies that allow you to practice whatever is it for hours and hours and hours over the course of years in order to have that power. That will make you shine, that will make you invincible, that will make you seen, that will give you the attention, the recognition, rather than that sense of being safe, the sense of being finally empowered. But in truth, you are still actually covering a profound disempowerment, right? And so it is to ask if people with these powers are in any way better. You see, the question itself is not that it's misguided. The question is a very good question, but the question doesn't take in consideration the impossibility of the fact, because only an obsessive personality would go for that path. And by definition, that type of personality cannot be happy, will not be happy. And this one, I've seen it over the course of decades, repeated empirically as a statistical fact. And so these great skills, either they are, let's call it God-given, let's say that you have been chosen. And there are people like this, I mean, that don't do anything, they wake up one day, well, there is always some trauma generally, kind of, at the back of it. But let's say that something happened and then you wake up one day and boom, your mind has compensated this traumatic event and you have developed certain abilities, which very often you don't understand. Why do I have them? What do I need to do now with it now? And I've seen many people with this. And so their life sort of been turned apart because they didn't ask for it, but they have it, but they don't want it because, they just want to have a normal life. But so that's probably the best case scenario because, those are fairly normal people, just something happened to them. And then there is the other side. There is the person that doesn't have it, but he becomes so obsessed with it that he twists himself. He becomes some sort of a Lord of the Ring character, my precious, you become Voldemort, you become, what's the name, the Harry Potter monster, you become the typical villain of the fairy tales. So obsessed in your obscure desire for power that you are rescinded from the presence of love, right? And I've seen so many of them, and these people are not happy, are by any stretch. They can tell you they are, but they are not. And so the best thing that I can say for people that have a fascination for exploring how far they can stretch their potentials, right? It's to look at it as a hobby, okay? Like, you have your life, and then you have your free time, and you have a hobby that you are really, really passionate about. Instead of being soccer, instead of being dancing or playing guitar, it is to practice Qigong, yoga, Tao, energy for a couple of hours a day. That's sort of the best way that I can really, place it, frame it. You have to think of it as an hobby, and then it's an hobby for the rest of your life. And practice make perfect, and it's like having a Zen garden or doing bonsai or cooking. Through the years, you become a master at it, because if you dedicate enough time to something over the course of many years, well, eventually you become a master at it, right? And
that also brings you joy to become, like, to master something in a way.
Because if that's really something that you really do enjoy, to stand there and doing Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga in cross-leg position, or breathing or meditating, and you really do enjoy it, and that's a question, because I find that most people actually are torturing themselves. But let's say that you really do enjoy it. But please, it's beautiful. It's definitely better than go out and get drunk, right? Or something else, right? So beautiful. Do it as an hobby. You like some of these things, take it up, do it to the best, and over the course of many years, you may or you may not maybe develop something out of it. But hopefully more than telekinesis would be some peace of mind. That probably would be a much better outcome, I would believe, right? Or again, as you mentioned, a better mental state that allow you to have better relationships, right? With your family, with your spouses, with your children, in society, with your friends. That probably would be a very, very good outcome of your hobby, whichever that may be, right?
I love it.
Okay, so now hold on. Sorry,
I love that answer so much. It's really like it was amazing.
Okay, but now I just want to ask a question. Yeah, sorry. So you've gone on your journey. You've found these things out. You've kind of understood what's going on. The superhuman abilities don't kind of really need anything. It becomes more of a pain than anything else. So what is it? What's the crux? What's the end thing? So if you say, right, this should become not a focus of your life, but maybe more of a hobby, as you're saying. What is the final thought? What is your what am I trying to think? What am I trying to say? So what is it that are you currently teaching now? And if you are, what are you teaching? What are you trying to tell the people? You say, listen, don't worry about going after these powers, rather just live your life. Or are you saying there's an alternate way of getting to the power, and it's not through that, it's through this route? If I'm making sense.
The simple answer is love.
Okay.
However banal and not grand it may seem, it is the answer. And when love is the answer, there are no more questions. If there are still questions, it's because you still didn't understand that love is the answer. You're still searching. That means you're still blind. You still haven't found. When you find, love is the answer. And there are no more questions.
Yeah.
But the practice of love, how do you grow into love? Let's maybe call it the ultimate superpower. Okay, just pun intended. Well, that's all another question. How do you practice love? How do you grow into it? And that's a worthy topic of conversation that is a worthy endeavor to research. That is worthy of the time that you spend on it, you know, every step of the way. And love, you know, to paraphrase, is a steep and narrow path. And it truly is, because it implies the uncovering of the lies and the movement toward what is not a lie. And so we would say is the truth, but very often when we say the truth, we cannot separate the epistemology of the truth from the moral and ethics connected to it. And so people say, well, the truth, oh, I know the truth, or that's the truth. And so then it becomes sort of this polarized ethical, you know, truth versus, you know, whatever is it, false, rather than understanding that the journey of love is a journey of uncovering the lies. And by finding the courage to gradually stop lying, what is left of you in your relationship with yourself, and well, especially with your spouses, with your beloved one, is the truth. And so the truth understood in this way, as that condition where you understand that whatever outcome is the outcome of thinking, speaking, and acting the truth to the best possible understanding that you have of it now. And that truth being sort of embodied in the idea of love, that is connection, relation with another, as the drive that brings us to connect. Okay. Well, then, whatever the outcome of living that truth is the best possible outcome, even if it's a very hard one, even if it, you know, it might be very difficult, the consequences of being true, living in the truth, okay, thinking the truth, and speaking the truth, which is difficult, because why we lie, especially men, why we lie? Men are always accused of being liars, and it's true, we are liars, but why? It's simple, because the truth is not accepted. And rather than dealing with, we cannot deal with the fact that another person cannot deal with the truth. And so we don't want to deal with their emotional, whatever is it, right? And we don't want to deal with our own self in relation to them and with them. But then we lie. And so it's very simple why men lie and why people lie in general. Is because the truth is unbearable. And so a journey of love is a journey of truth toward the truth. And it takes two to tango. Because say, well, you know, I want the truth. Right. 99% of the time, you can't take the truth. And then whenever the truth come out, there is like a tantrum. Ah, no. Finger pointing. You. Right. And so a journey toward love, and it's a journey toward the truth. And the two things are sort of so intertwined that we can say that only when you create a space of what is called spiritual growth or personal development that includes the truth as a mirror of your growth into love and vice versa, of love as a mirror of growing into the truth. And so you with yourself don't need to cover up your thoughts, your words, and your actions. So there is an alignment between what you think, what you say, and what you do. And you are able to bring that very gently and carefully, because it's no easy task. You have another human being that is alive, fragile, right, with traumas, with unsolved issues, just like you are. And gradually you uncover the truth and you find enough courage And love is what gives courage, because love is what makes us brave. To stop the lie. And so that love can emerge. The truth can emerge. And how do you know it? Well, because when the truth emerges, love emerges. It's like, again, they are two sides of the same coin. It's one light. Okay. And so that's the work in David. Well, that's spiritual practice. And so if you ask me what for me is important now, well, it's this. What do I teach? Well, I have nothing to teach. I mean, I may be able to maybe inspire people to think different. You know, I like to quote Socrates, one of the forefathers of Western philosophy. You know, when he said that I can't teach anybody anything. I can just make them think. You know, I took that one as a personal quote of mine. And I very much see that. I passed the point where, you know, where I have any pretense of let's say, teaching people anything, you know, that is worthy. I can teach you techniques. Yes, of course, that I can teach you loads of it, thousands of it. How to move your energy, do this, do that, and add that, and open your third eye, and feel this, and feel that. I can teach you the whole thing, right? But if you ask me what is truly, to me nowadays, important, the paradox of it is that you can't really teach it, but you can learn it, right? And for me is love. So that's what I'm passionate about. And love implies, first and foremost, relationship, because there is no such a thing as love without relationship, because love is that emotion, the tendency, the force that brings us from isolation to connection. And connection means relation between one and another. So it doesn't exist love, I close my eyes and I wish everybody love, I love everybody, I wish them everybody happiness. That's not love. That's a fantasy. But mostly it displays guilt, generally. So you sublimate with the thought what you can't really do in reality. So it's very nice to love everybody in your meditation, but then you go out of the door and you shout at everyone, you know, the first wrong cafe latte that they bring you at the bar. I don't know. But in meditation, no problem. I love everyone unconditionally. My heart is open. So that's the spirituality which is very dangerous, is very unhealthy, is very deceiving, and well, I have an antidote for it, for the few people that like to taste it, and it can taste bitter sometimes, but the results are good. And people don't want to hear this, that spirituality is first and foremost relationship, and relationships, because spirituality is the path of love, right? And love is that force that brings us, the tendency, the force, that emotion that brings us to connect. So isolation versus connection, and connection is a synonym of relationship. And so people think that spirituality has to be something disembodied, a vertical experience. Nowadays, people like to use this catchy word, high consciousness, high frequency, right? They don't mean anything. It's the same like visualizing that I love everyone. Now everybody go and take ayahuasca or iboga, you know, in Gabon, in Africa, or I don't know, whatever, mushrooms, and everybody has a conscious experience, my consciousness so high. And it's all this vertical fantasy, is a vertical escape. But then these people in real life, well, most of them, they can't hold the relationship. They can't have one. They are escaping it, believing that they don't need it because they are above it, because my consciousness is high, and you know, oh, the relationship is low. Right? But and that's the devil path. That's the illusion. That's what you think is light, but it's dark. And I use the devil here in this, not in a religious, strictly sense, in the, I always say in its etymology. You know, The word devil in English is from Greek, right? Diabolon, that is that which separates. And so you do all these spiritual practices thinking that you are communing, you are becoming connected with your light. I see the light, but you are becoming separated more and more from the truth, from yourself, from others, from love. And so true spirituality is horizontal. You see the paradox of it. And that's what people don't want to hear. It's not necessarily that spiritual high. I close eyes in meditation. My heart is open. I see the light. I see the angels, the pyramids. Oh, I'm one with everything. Okay. Well, that may be a small part of it, and there is a space for it because we do have a drive toward transcendence. So that's okay. That's fine. But the core of spiritual work is the horizontal drive. And what's the horizontal drive? Well, it's relationship, first and foremost. Okay. Well, then it's resources, let's say wealth, okay? And the third, of course, is health. Okay, because without health, there's nothing. Mens sana in corpore sano, my ancestors used to say, so that there is a sound mind in a sound body. And so if there is a disconnect between the mind and the body, between the psyche and the soma, they should be one. There should be one continuum. Okay, that's what it means health. All is from Greek holos, that means whole. Okay, so health is not about having chiseled abs and nice Instagram photos. Health, again, in this etymological meaning, is that holos is that wholeness, that is the integration of the psyche and the soma. So that's health. Well, relationships, well, we have discussed, it's the essence of love. And so you cannot grow in love if you don't have a relationship. It's just impossible. And vice versa, you cannot say that you are spiritual and that you understand and experience and feel love if you can't transform that into an healthy whole relationship with a significant other. And because in the relationship the truth appears, all the little lies that you tell that you didn't admit to yourself, that you are hiding, they all appear in a relationship, and vice versa, of course, right? And so relationship is the only path to love. There is the path to truth. There is no hiding when you live with someone 24/7 over the course of many years. And all the little lies, the thing that you cannot tell, the thing that you don't know how to tell, the thing that you tell otherwise, blah, 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 they all come out. And you get caught and you get cold.
And also not being authentic.
Yeah. Right, and well, if you do your work, that relationship will grow and the love will grow, and otherwise it will wither. And if it does wither away, well, that's on you. It always takes two to tango, but let's say it's on you, in a sense. Well, that's a proof that all the love that you feel in meditation, your heart is open, cosmic consciousness, is still not really there. There is still a lot of untold lies within you. Untold shadows that, and so then you become humble, because the next time that you experience I love everybody, you are reminded that in reality you are not even capable of loving one person wholly and truly and fully. How can you pretend and be so arrogant to think that you can love the whole world unconditionally? Just nonsense. And so spirituality is horizontal work. And that's what people don't want to hear. People only want to hear, I close my eyes, I visualize pyramids, angels, alignments of energies, I feel amazing, and I am connected. No, that's not connection, that's disconnection. And it's that bliss of disconnection, right? But spirituality is horizontal work. Every day of your life till the day you die. And there is no true escape from it. You can take a pause from it, That's fine. So mythologically, we are saying that the creator create the world in however many days, and then it takes a day of rest, and it's okay. So you do your work, and then you rest. You enjoy what you have created, but then you go back to work after. And so love and spirituality is here, is in your relationship, is in your health. That is that wholeness that continue between psyche and soma. And of course, it's your wealth, that is your resources, right? And that's how you do your spiritual practice. You don't need to fly and levitate for it.
So basically, David, what we're saying is you've got to strike a balance. So if you are one of these people in which we, William and I, we do a lot of meditations and those kind of things. So, try to better our minds, whatever it is. So you're right in saying that, yeah, it's fine if you go through that process in the morning and you're spending an hour meditating and you're trying to, improve your connection with God, whatever it is. But then it's got to become a practice. So if you've got that first part and you're doing the meditation, you're doing whatever, it's then got to transfer into practice, where you actually go and practice with the relationships that you're having with people, the kind of idea of where your mind was in the morning. So if you're trying to say my connection with God, blah, blah, but then you've got to then move and go and actually do what you were imagining you were doing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and that's what I say, it should be an hobby. After you have done what you are supposed to do, that's God work. That's what you are supposed to do. That's your spiritual practice. Then you have extra time and inclination, by all means. Put your legs behind your ears, open your chakras, take ayahuasca mushrooms, I don't know, do qigong, whatever you like, no problem. Whatever, rock your boat. But that's a hobby. But you have to do God work. That's spiritual practice. You see, that's the reverse. People think, oh my God, I'm going to do this thing that I so don't want to do. It's so unspiritual. So that finally I can now sit and meditate and be spiritual. You understand? The delusion, the devil game. You are playing the devil game. You think you are worshiping the light and you are falling into the darkness of your own ignorance.
But also, David, do you think like some of these practices could enhance you to reach that stage of that wisdom you're talking about and finding the truth and like with your practices? I was doing the energy one, right? And like I was also after a phenomenon, and I was like chasing phenomena, and like I was doing the 90 days, because it's 90 days energy, and I had to look at the light in the third eye there, but I never saw the light, so I got a bit discouraged, and I thought, okay, this is not working, so I left it. I now went to the next practice. It was just 90 days. So I did the energy one with like the breathing with the stomach, that you're doing the bundle locks, and in that one, I mean, firstly, I'd start getting extremely aroused, like during the day, like I would, after like 2 weeks of doing that, I'd get so sexually aroused that it would be quite, it was insane actually. I mean, it was quite distracting. And then, but at the same time, I would have such depression, like I would be so depressed that. The first time I didn't know what was happening, because I just thought I was getting depressed. I didn't know it was from that practice. I was just getting and everything in my life, like everything that was like very small in my life that I could actually manage, it would become such a fester, and like it would fester so much in my reality that I would, it would become such a problem. I wouldn't address that problem, like with my relationships or people at work or whatever. I wouldn't address it very well, because I would be in a state of depression and fear and anxiety that I would make it worse. And then my life would become so upside down, it would become unbearable. And I remember speaking to the psychic once, and she said, well, just stop. You're doing too many practices. Just stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. It's messing up. So then I thought, okay, well, maybe it is. So I stopped that. and I went to the heart coherence one, which I really enjoy that one. And then I would go back to the power one again, and then the same thing would happen. And then I would get into such the obviously the sexual arousal. I mean, not while I'm doing the practice or afterwards. It would build up. So like in my all day-to-day life, like I would have this like arousal, but then the depression, like extreme depression, and then everything in my life would just turn upside down. Everything I can't manage, it would just everything. The small things would just I'd obsess about things, and I'd make chaos in my life. And then I'd think, was it really that? So then I would stop, and then it would subside. So I'm really scared to go do that practice. Like and I don't know if it's I don't know what it is, and I'm scared to do it. But then I do the heart coherence one, where I'm doing the visualization, and then like trying to listen to the heart and whatever. But that it's so profound, the feeling, because I just feel so amazing. Like I mean, I would even come to tears and stuff like that, doing it, and then I just was like, this one just feels nice. I'll just do this one. So I'll just carry on doing it, and I've been doing it for ages now. I forgot about the other two, because this one. But the thing is, the first one I was chasing a phenomenon, and then like this, and the second one as well, but it was just making me. But then this one, I'm just doing it every day because it feels nice. It's actually like in the morning when I wake up, I just do it, and it makes me feel good, and I can start my day. And then also, I try, in the middle of the day when I'm losing like I'm just like feeling a bit like drained or whatever, I just do it again, and I feel great, and it really like makes me feel so wonderful inside my chest, and like I feel happy, like it makes me feel like it's almost like I'm in love, almost like, but I still don't think I really understand the feeling of love, but it has, well, I believe it's been making me a better person, and I feel like I'm like more in tune of like being more authentic of like what I want in my life, and like what and that's what you say with the truth. I was lying, because like I wouldn't want to do certain things, or like I want to be myself because I feel like people won't love me if I be myself, or like if I say these things like how I feel, it's going to hurt the other person, and I want them to love me. So I'm just living in this lie. I'm lying all the time. I'm like, as you said, it's like not truth, because I'm not being authentic. And I feel that practice is making me be more authentic, and it's making me happy in my life. So like, and I do appreciate all that wisdom you shared and everything, that it's like a hobby, and it's actually woken up so much inside of me to realize like, yeah, like I have a lot of the time, like sometimes I do chase phenomenon. And the thing is, what I like about it is when I do see something like out of this world, or like paranormal, it does make me feel that there's like a greater thing to myself, and there's a God, and there's something else more to this reality. But I've got to be careful not to like, because I can get obsessed about stuff. But that's, and I do hear you that it should be a hobby, and as you've made me realize, like, yeah, I just got to be like more gentle on myself, and just be like, yeah, it's just. But I have been realizing that. But the thing is, I really believe that heart practice has been making me like attuned to love, and like know how, like I'm becoming slowly, gradually feeling okay, maybe this is what love is, and like I'm starting to feel happier. So I do feel that even though you're saying like it should be a hobby or whatever, I do feel that it is changing me, because I wouldn't have done that just doing it. Because the thing is also, I used to mock the Bible and the Torah and the Quran, and say like, the Hindus and the Buddhists have it right. They got it because they give you practices where you can learn how to achieve the spiritual awakening or whatever. But then I've also started realizing, but and it's also what you just said, if you just did what was in the Bible and just be a good person, and just be like, and love your neighbor, and just treat everyone at how you want to be treated, you will become a very spiritual person, incredibly, and you won't have to have those practices. But I still think but like with that heart coherence thing that you teaching, I feel it's helping me a lot. But then also I also wonder, like, well, maybe the consciousness on earth is just rising, or what, like, and we all changing and stuff like that, and maybe I don't have to do the practice, and that's going to happen anyway. But when I do it, I do really feel good, so I'll just carry on doing it.
Well, yes, and I say it's not that I deny the effectiveness, the value of these technologies that are developed, well, chiefly, let's say, of course, they are kind the cultural heritage of humanity at large, but they probably were developed to the detail and preserved at best in Asia. That's I think that it's hard to argue with it. And so absolutely there is a great value in this technology, in this practice. There is value in doing it, but again, you have to set your system of value straight. Your priorities and your system of value has to be straight, and then everything falls in order. And then these practices are a fantastic tool, but it's important not to misplace them or to misplace, well, your expectation.
Must become an obsession.
Or an obsession. Okay? And
yeah,
so,
it mustn't become an obsession. Yeah.
I mentioned before, right, that we do have a natural tendency looking for the transcendental, for the transpersonal, okay, and is embedded in our systems. I mean, think about that in our receptors, okay, we do have cannabinoid receptors in our systems. Okay, that means, well, we have cannabinoid receptors, we have tryptamine receptors. That means that we have been kind of growing along with these psychoactive substances for millions of years. And so looking for that transpersonal moment, for that expansiveness, for realizing that you are more than you are, right? That you are not just a physical body. It's an embedded need, not only in our psychology, but in our biology as well. My wife just came back, is in the kitchen. And together, because we already have our cats in the kitchen. And it would be foolish to deny it. And so I always make the point that even if you look at the animal kingdom, there is virtually no animal that is not instinctively looking and knowing is a psychedelic plant. Elephants and cats and dogs and goats and you name it, okay? They all look and know where to look to have their spiritual high. And so that impellent need to disconnect, because when you disconnect from an identity, from a commitment, from a work, from just the burden of being. And in the moment that you disconnect from that identity, well, you experience something else, something larger. And so, of course, it's a fantastic feeling, right? Absolutely. I mean, you can't deny that. And when you are a teenager, you unconsciously look for it when you go to parties and you experience transcendence and transpersonal state just through the music and through dance, right? Well, often with the support of some chemicals, but it just reiterates my point. That is, it's embedded not just in the psychology, but in the very physiology of our being as a drive. So we are looking for that state of expansion, of transcendence, of that transpersonal, because, well, it helps us to integrate our identity, which is made not only, of course, of our horizontal identity, so our physical identity, our body, our work, our psychology, and so on, our immediate reality, but also of these vertical moments. And the integration of the two is important because, as you correctly say, when you are tired or dissatisfied or stressed, or I don't know, whatever, you just want to check out. You have a nice technology, you close your eyes, you breathe, you meditate, you move, whatever it is that you do, and you feel great. You feel emotion, you feel at peace. Now I come back to myself feeling better, being better. Now, of course, it lasts very short. The illusion that people have is that if I meditate longer, when I come back, I'm gonna be better longer. That's the illusion, that's the trap, okay? Because it doesn't work like that. You meditate longer, you come back, still the same. 30 minutes, 1 hour, you are nice with everyone, you love everyone, 2 hours, half a day top, okay? After you are yourself. But that momentary escape, because spirituality, remember, the spiritual experience has understood commonly that verticalization, that transcendence, that expansion, it's an escape. That's what it is. Okay. It is needed psychologically, physiologically, and it's true. Even at the level of neurology, they discovered that when you have this deep state of transpersonal experience, your DMN, your default mode network, disconnect for a moment. Now, the default mode network is what gives us the sense of the referential self. So fundamentally of my internal dialogue of me. Okay, and so that's why this meditation of psychedelics, they feel so good, because for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, you are off. You are offline. Okay. And it's good to be offline. And now what they discover, which is more interesting, is that when the brain, let's call it specifically the DMN, comes back online, your reassemblage of your personality is slightly altered. Okay, so you do some tweaking and correction because you accumulate a lot of errors in the processing of personality and identity day by day, just by the churning of emotion and thoughts and activity. So there is a lot of errors in that coding. And so meditation helps sort of to clear that, and you reassemble yourself and, okay, right, things are clearer. I have my priorities straight. I'm a nice person. I feel good emotion, good. I'm motivated to be positive in life. Right. Mm-hmm. And so there is great value in these practices. Absolutely. Plus, they help the integration of psyche and soma, because you create this literally interfacing of the mind into the body. All meditation practices are ways to connect a psychic, a psychological activity with a body feeling, right? And so you have to create that integration. So I could go on and on and on and on to tell you how amazing these things are. I mean, it should be my job to sell it to you, right? But I can do that, and it's easy to do that. But I always try to give people the other side, what they don't want to hear, or what they are not told. Okay, that is the other side of it. Well, that all these things are great, but you have to really see a much bigger picture if you are talking about spirituality or growth or spiritual practice or anything, right? And that's very often the part that, it's boring. I don't want to hear that. But that's spiritual practice. This is fun. This is entertainment. This is checking out. Okay, that's the escape, which is that infantilism that we all have. I want to escape, right? Because relationships are hard, because living is hard, living with myself is hard, living with my choices or my mistakes or what I cannot do, living with my lies is hard. And so it's easy to go and do a Vipassana meditation, or ayahuasca in the jungle, or visualize my chakras and feeling connecting to my heart and feeling so good. Of course it's easier. But that's not spiritual practice. That's my point. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's an important element in a person's life. That's what I say. I would say a very constructive hobby, if well properly placed in your system of value, right? But you need the guidance into seeing the bigger picture, right? Because otherwise, you are really going into a direction that you don't want to go, because you are deluding yourself.
Oh. Yeah, 100% agree.
David.
Yeah, David.
And
Thanks.
I want to make a further point, which is the key. You say, I need to meditate because it helped me to calm my mind, or to do this or to do that, or I don't know, whatever, to reconnect with my heart. But where that need to meditate, where that restlessness comes from, and you think that you're going to fix it with a trick in meditation, you won't. It's just, my teacher always used to tell me, meditation is medication. People medicate themselves with meditation. It's just the same. Well, better quality, probably, at least it's an endogenously produced medication. There is some values to it, but it's still a medication. It doesn't address the root question. Why do you have the need to escape? Why you are restless? Why you are whatever, broken or distressed? And you say, well, life is hard. Yes, it's true. But if you do what you need to do, truly, trust me, your mind will be at peace. You'll be able to navigate your anxiety. You don't need to close your eyes and meditate for 5 hours a day. You won't. And so that's very important to understand that if you do what you need to do, which is not very often what you want to do, then your mind will be at peace. And then suddenly you don't have the need to meditate because, oh, my mind, la, la, la. No, your mind is quiet. You are quiet. You are centered. You are fulfilled. You are profoundly at peace, however at peace a human being can be, because you always have an anxiety of tomorrow, which you can't control, you can't predict, but you will have that peace within, that faith within. And so also there, then the whole value of meditation then is shifted, because you don't do it just to medicate yourself to be calmer. Well, and then you discover that there is actually a more profound dimension to why you pray, why you meditate, or why you breathe. Because, you know, when the Buddha or these great saints or yogis or whatever is it, they devised these practices. They didn't devise them to be stress-free. Well, they devised them for a process of kind of a transpersonal enlightenment, you know, or awakening. And so, but you need to arrive at the point where you understand these practices at that level, not just to medicate yourself to, you know, to release your stress or to, you understand what I mean? So,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. But do you think sometimes with the meditation, because sometimes you're in such a state of fear that you don't know what the right thing to do, like you say, like if you, to get out of that situation, but through meditation, it could actually help you realize, okay, these are the things I need to change in my life. This is the right thing that I need to do, because you're in such a state that you can't actually realize how to change. But then with the meditation, you could.
Yes, of course, because I say you put your brain physiologically in pose, and so, you know, the old grandmother wisdom, you know, take 3 or 9 deep breaths before you talk, especially when you're stressed. I mean, my grandmother taught me this when I was a child, from her military, you know, discipline. Okay, they were under the war, you know, the bullets flying and bombs exploding, real stress, not the stress because you didn't have your latte down your way. Okay, and before you take the next decision or you talk, you breathe. Okay, you step back, you assess what you can do, what you cannot do, what are your options, what are not your options, and all right, you go for it. Okay, so of course, that's what I say. The value of these practices is undisputable. That sometimes you do, and you take a breath, you do some movements, rather than you go to run 40 minutes for a nice run, or you take a cold shower, or you do push-ups, or you work hard at the gym, or whatever is it. For sure, they help you to disconnect, because again, we're talking of disconnection from a level of overwhelming pressure that you can't deal with. And in that disconnection, you know, you have a moment of, okay, now I breathe. relax, quiet, and now I can see things more clearly. And then you go back to it, but absolutely, but then you still need to go back to it.
Yeah. Well, David, it's been absolutely, I mean, Lee, you got anything else we want to ask?
No, that's been great. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
thank
it's
you very
been
much
so
for your time.
profound.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've learned a lot about myself just through this interview. It's been probably one of the most profound ones we've actually had. So thank you, David. It's been absolutely amazing, and I mean, just to meet you because I'm such a fan of your work in that. And how do you, I mean, now that you poo-pooed the meditation so much, where can people find out how to do your meditations?
Sorry?
I said, now that you've poo-pooed meditation so much, where can people find you to do the meditations?
Well, it's a good thing. Look, and again, I took a long pause of many years from teaching, and nowadays when I teach, there is a lot of dialogue that happen. Okay. And then, of course, I do give practical instruments, also different techniques, and logically, I have collected some true jewels along the way, and many things that I discarded, but some true jewels of incredible practices, very valuable, and some systems of knowledge. I mean, one of the main ones that I teach, the heart mirror, is this fantastic, system of practice, of which the breathing that you have learned it's just a segment of it, and so there are several segments. It's an amazing system, and so of course, I mean, I teach the value of these practices in the right context, and so not just the breathing, much more than it, and well, I do prefer to work either with very small private groups or audience, or individual, committed people, couples or small groups, because there can be a true relationships. Because when you are with a big audience, it's not a relationship; it's a performance. You are on a show, okay? You perform, and I can't do that. I can't perform, but it's not what I value nowadays, because there must be a dialogue, and I cannot have a dialogue with 200 people. Just it's impossible, right? I can have a dialogue, with small group, 10 already is difficult, right? And so I like to teach in this settings, and of course, I mean, I also do give private seminars and public seminars and so on. Not that often. So now in Bali until April, we had a nice group that last month, and we will have another one now in mid-February for San Valentin, by the way. And I will teach a beautiful system. My wife actually found a nice name for it called Master of Energy and Power of Intent. And it's still part of this profound system, profound jewel of the heart mirror, from where these breathing practices kind of are extrapolated from. So is a part of the incredible system of practice aimed at the rainbow body, the dissolution of the body into light, of awakening. So very lofty kind of goal, which is unachievable by most, but the system is incredible. So I like to teach segments of it when I teach, depending on what I see. And so that I will be doing that here in Bali, and probably will have another seminar then in March, middle of March. And then probably by end of April, we'll be back in Europe. We might come and visit your beautiful country.
Yeah, please do. Love to do it.
And like this, I mean, So if anyone want to contact me, just write me. I'm a stern teacher. I don't code it sweet. I tend to chase people away. I'm very uncompromising, So you really have to convince me, you know.
Okay. Well, great. So then, what do they go to your website, or how do they get in touch with you?
Well, you know, where there is a will, there is a way. I'm sure people can find me. They have my name.
Just Google your name. Okay, cool. We'll make sure you spell it right when we put it on the.
There is Instagrams and whatever. No Facebook, please. I don't use Facebook. Okay, there are some accounts to my name, but I don't use Facebook. Okay, but my wife follows some of the Instagram. There is a website. So again, if you really want to find me, you can find me. You found me, right? So it's not that difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Well, David, it's been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you. It was great. I mean, I can't believe how wonderful this interview was. Profound. Thank you.
Yeah. It was really good. Yeah, thanks, David.
And
Take good care. And doesn't matter if you are religious or not. You must have faith. You must find faith. Not necessarily in a religious sense, but in understanding what is it that you have faith on. And you have faith that is complete confidence that love is the answer, and the path to love is leading to the truth, and truth is leading to love. And whatever you may say and do, if it is done in the spirit and without lies, to yourself and to the best of your abilities to others, which is not easy, whatever outcome will be the best possible outcome. And that's faith. So you don't need to have a religious faith, but you need to have faith in the truth. That the truth shall set you free from the illusion, from the lies, from the fear. And you need to be brave. But if you have faith that whatever outcome emerges from thinking, speaking, and acting the truth, and having a relationship with the truth, and try your best not to lie, and walk the path of love, however hard, the outcome is the best possible outcome. Live by this faith. That's really my heartfelt recommendation.
What an amazing way to end it. And like, yeah, you've inspired me so much, David. And I've learned so much about myself and what I need to do. I'm gonna go do it now. So thank you, David. Thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, David.
Okay, bye, man.
Arrivederci. Cool, bud. Very interesting, very wise man. Yeah, I definitely understand what he's trying to say, because as much as we always looking for better meditations and kind of awaken certain things, which is great. I mean, it's definitely helpful. I think the message there is, don't forget that when you come back to Earth, you still got to deal with the problems. The problem's still got to be there. So you need to you need to live your life. Life has to be lived. So.
No, but I mean, I tell you, but I really do think that meditation that I learned with that heart-brain clearance thing has made realize a lot of stuff about myself and this whole.
No, but it's exactly like you said. So it's a good thing to do. It's part of the it's part of the process. But once you've done that and you've come back and you're feeling overjoyed and you're feeling love, and that you've got to transfer that to your relationships and to yourself and to whatever. So I think that's kind of the message there. And I think it's actually it's pretty cool. I think
it really is amazing. I think it's the best interview we've done. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was amazing.
Yeah, a little bit different though, because we've chatted to a lot of guys and girls and that, and they've we were striving to become enlightened and to become, you know what I mean? It's just. And it's right, you're kind of disconnecting from the main thing. That's actually going to get you to that enlightenment. So we're doing, you've got two parts, A and B. A, we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot of meditations. We're doing a lot of
I mean, I find
enlightened
it's- I
ideas
find
and
it's
that, but
fun,
B,
yeah.
we kind of letting it fall because B is not really happening.
But the thing is, like as he said, it should be a hobby. I mean, it is because I'm having a lot of fun, like
Yeah.
being the remote viewing practice. I'm fun. I love it. It's so fun. I mean, and also when you get a target, it's so exciting. You're like, oh my gosh, I've actually got all of this stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah,
It's like a hobby, you know. It's like a.
it is. I mean, you're right. You don't spend the whole day.
Also, that
doing it.
could
You
help
spend a
you. I
couple
mean,
of-
the thing is, the remote viewing thing can help you. I mean, because you could like find out information about something that you need, or like you could, you know. So, it's great. But anyway, that was a great interview. Cool, man.
yeah, cool, man.
I've got to run because I've got to go to shoot now.
Yeah, but anyway, that's it for today, guys and ladies. And
Like,
we will
subscribe.
chat
We're
to
on
you guys next week.
Spotify.
Yeah,
We're on Spotify, Apple
Yeah.
Podcast, every podcast channel, and YouTube. Like and subscribe. You made it this far. You
Yeah.
have to do it. Because, come on.
yeah,
It was
100%. And yeah, we'll chat to you guys next week. Thanks everybody for listening, and see you soon. Well,
Yeah. Cool, Lee. Thanks, bro.
thanks, bud. Cheers.